I'm bedraggled. I look dreadful. You can tell I'm a bit tired. Hello everyone, how are you? Yeah, oh my goodness, I'm dead on my feet. Welcome to Thoughts on month 53. A little bit late. Everything this year. Honestly, if I had if I was writing an autobiography of this year, or if I was doing a review of the year at the end of the year, which I'm not going to, by the way, I'd give it the title, I am running about 4 weeks behind the whole year. Oy vey, there are reasons, look, you know the reasons by now. Just ploughing on. So, was it last month? Last month, I think, when I was doing my thoughts on, I was saying how, with the whole thoughts on, my mind was turning back to the original purpose of doing my thoughts on at the end of each month, which was to sort of just reflect on, analyse, evaluate how that month had gone in terms of living without a wage and growing my own food. I was sort of saying I want to get back to the basics of that, which is true, and I do today, excuse me. I've woken up today feeling just a little bit below par. I mean, not, I'm well below par in terms of the tiredness and like, come on body, get going, come on brain. Oh, talking of brain, no, I'll come on to my brain in a second. Yeah, I've woken up this morning, I just feel that thing of, if I managed to catch a cold from someone, it wouldn't surprise me, just in terms of probably, I think for all of us, you know, I think my immune system is a bit, oh, that's my phone. It's been relentless, it just doesn't stop at the moment. Leave me alone! Yeah, I think, you know, my immunity has been lazy in the last 18 months just because of not mixing, not picking up those little bugs that we pick up all the time. A little bit of exposure and our body goes, right, okay, yeah, I know how to deal with this. So from being so on my own for so long, I think just recently, backwards and forwards on trains again and it's quite likely I've picked up a bit of a cold. Nothing, you know, nothing to write home about, but it's just that thing of, you know, when you wake up and you go, ugh, just a little bit below. Hence, I'll probably be drinking lots of water as we chat today, this morning, because I just feel all a bit bleh. Anyway, yeah, this thing about tiredness in my brain, oh, what an absolute Egypt. When was it? I've lost track of time. Was it 2 days ago or so? Is when I was doing the chickpea harvest. And if you remember, starting the chickpea harvest, then it started raining, so I put all of you in the shed whilst I carried on with the harvest, then came back to the shed to talk about, you know, all things chickpeas. I hope that was useful for anyone who's been wondering about growing their own. Anyway, so I came back to the shed with all my lovely chickpeas, set up my camera and tripod again, chatted away to you all for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. And then I thought, right, I'll get back out. It was still a bit rainy. I'm going to go back out into the garden and start picking all my dry beans to bring home. You don't need to see that. I won't bother taking the camera out in the garden. It was raining. So I can't remember the sequence of did I pick my beans and then come back and check? Anyway, before I leave the garden, if I've been filming in the garden, I always check what I filmed. I check how long it's running, and usually, almost always, without timing myself, I almost always end up making a 30-minute video. But I do check, because if I've only made a 15-minute video, then I'll think, oh, what else can we talk about today? I'll fit something else in. So I looked to see how much I'd filmed, and it said 17 minutes. I thought, that can't be right. So I checked all the shots. That whole chat in the shed I hadn't recorded it. What an absolute numpty. I hadn't pressed record. So that really is a kind of lunacy, isn't it? Me sitting in my shed chatting to no one. Anyway, I filmed it again. This time I pressed record. So, yes. Oh my goodness, I've been around the houses already. Yeah, I definitely feel a bit weird. I'm going to come... What I just said a second ago about back to basics, life without a wage, growing my own food, I'm going to come on to that at the end. And that was all I was going to talk about today, but a theme has emerged this month. Well, it's now last month, isn't it, for September. And I thought, and it got my mind, it got the cogs going. I thought, oh yeah, I think it's quite an interesting one for us to talk about. And I think it's something that we will all, everybody is going to have an opinion about. It's the subject of advice. So, in fact, thinking about it, it was at the beginning of September when I was doing my calendula harvest. Remember I was saying how with newbie gardeners, I never give anyone advice. I don't jump in there and say, oh, you're doing that wrong. If someone asks me, then I might say, well, this is what I've done in the past and this has worked for me or this hasn't worked for me. But so it's weird that would come up at the beginning of the month, and this was not a subject that was on my radar to talk about at all. But like I said, a few things have happened through the rest of the month that it's like, oh yeah, let's chew the fact about advice. And what's occurred to me is, having thought about it a little bit in the last few days, I realise that I really am very reluctant to give advice on anything at all. I would certainly be incredibly reluctant about giving unsolicited advice. In other words, giving someone advice who hasn't asked for it. Because I know what that does to me when someone gives me advice that I haven't asked for. It actually gets my back up. It's a bit annoying. I've done it once in recent years and it went wrong, and I'll come on to that. I'll tell you about that in a second. But yeah, this whole thing about advice. Now, I've had a couple of viewers over the last couple of years, and they circumvent things by messaging privately. There's one woman in particular, I don't know how she managed it, but she messaged via my personal Facebook page, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a no-go. That's my personal page. That's just for a very few personal close friends and family. I don't share it, it's personal. But the message came up. Now, so long as I don't answer it, it doesn't let her into my page. So of course I wasn't going to. I didn't know her from Adam, But she basically sort of sent this message saying, you need to do X, Y, and Z in your life. And I read all this comment and I thought, well, no, I don't really. I'm perfectly happy, thank you very much. It was just one of those things. And also, this is a tricky part of the subject of taking advice is people get really offended if you don't take their advice. It's almost like, oh, I'm being arrogant by not taking this woman's advice. No, it's got nothing to do with me being arrogant. It's just, it's not right for me at the moment. So I didn't reply. She had no business being on my personal page anyway, and I hadn't asked for advice, certainly not in the area she was giving it. So I simply ignored it. But then, since then, literally for the last 2 years, every 3 months or so, she messages again, and she'll say, you didn't do what I told you. I'm like, And then the messages have got increasingly sort of personal and angry, and I can understand she's frustrated with me because I'm not doing what she wants me to do, but it's none of her business, frankly. But yeah, she has got really quite grumpy with me, and you know, one of the messages, she's like, why do you hate me so much that you won't do what I tell you to do? It's like, I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? How can I hate you? I don't know you. I'm not in the market for hating anyone anyway, but I don't hate someone I don't know. But also, take the hint. I'm not responding to you. I nearly swore. Take the blooming hint. Yeah, unsolicited advice. So that's been going on quite a long time with her. And then there's another one where, yeah, so like I was saying, I'm not in the habit of giving advice, certainly not unsolicited. But then I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, well, actually, Vivi, by doing your channel, you kind of are, aren't you? And I was thinking, am I giving advice about, you know, growing tomatoes? And I suppose I am. But I would like to think of it more that rather than, and I try to be careful with my words as well, that rather than saying do what I'm doing, it's the best way to do it, is rather than giving advice, I'm just sharing. So, you know, it's a case of this is how I've done things and it's worked for me, or I tried this and it didn't work for me. You know, it's definitely not coming from any sort of place of me thinking I'm an expert or perfect. Of course I'm not. I do regularly share when things don't work. So yeah, I try to think of it more as that I'm sharing my experience, what's worked, what hasn't, and from that you can take what you choose. You can think, I think that applies to me in my life too. I'm going to try doing that thing that Vivi did and see if it works for me. I'm certainly not telling anyone what to do. And really, really importantly, this is so important, and it upset me. These days, I don't let comments upset me. I don't let thumbs down upset me. It's just not worth it. Life's too short. But earlier in the year, sort of, I think it was through March, April, May or so, when I was tapping into this sort of idea of beyond frugal, and I was talking about, you know, saving, getting rid of debt or bringing down debt, getting rid of the unnecessary stuff in life in order to bring our expenses down, in order to save for our dreams or save to pay off mortgages, whatever it was, all that kind of stuff around money. And there were a few videos I did in that sort of little series, and I'm pretty sure, I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure that in every single one of them I was very careful to say, I am not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing with you what I've done and what's worked for me. That's really important. B, if you are in serious financial trouble, if your debts are escalating, you don't see a way out, whatever, get help from a professional, from a financial advisor. There are I've given all sorts of recommendations about where to go to get help, you know, within the UK Citizens Advice Bureau. There are all sorts of debt advice professionals out there, and I've been really clear to say, go and get help from professionals if you need it, because I'm not. Yeah. And then this woman, it's like, oh yeah, anyway, she tore into me. You're not a financial advisor, ha ha, do you know how ridiculous you sound, ha ha ha. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because, back to this thing of advice, is no, I'm not giving financial advice. I wouldn't dream of doing that because I'm not qualified to. What I'm doing is sharing my experiences in the hope that they might be helpful to someone else, that they can apply them in some ways, take some bits of me, some bits of this, some bits of that, and apply it, leave out all sorts of other stuff that I do, that I talk about, you know, pick and choose. I'm just sharing. I'm not advising. I've recently had another bit of unsolicited advice. And this kind of comes back to why I'm reluctant and reticent to give advice ever, unless I'm asked. There's a really happy bit at the end of this, by the way. This isn't just me being doomy, gloomy, moany. There's a really happy bit coming. One of the reasons I am always reluctant to give advice is because we never know what's going on in someone else's life. We never know what's going on in someone else's head. We don't walk in their shoes. So even if someone directly asks me for advice, if it's very personal, it's really hard to answer, isn't it? Because what's right for me may not be right for someone else. When it's really, really, really close friends, really, really good friends that I've known for a while, that I know very intimately, I know all different aspects of how their mind operates and all their different parts of their life, what have you. If that kind of friend asks me for advice, then I might open up. But it would always be with that preface of, I can't really say for you, but if I was in your situation, this is probably what I would do. But even then, I'm really reluctant because I don't want someone to act on my words and it not be right for them and it to just mess their life up even more. So yeah, I would be very reluctant to give advice to a best friend. I certainly would not give advice to someone that I only know via YouTube. Now, of course, I've been very open in the last, however long, 53 months. I've been very open. There are all sorts of things I talk about, all sorts of my feelings I talk about. And yeah, I am really, really open, honest, genuine. Yeah, I am. However, what everyone needs to remember is I only choose to share this like little snapshot of my life, just a percentage of my life. There's so much more to me that you don't know. You don't need to know. Oh, just get comfy. There's stuff that's way more intimate that I'm never going to share via YouTube. It's not the right place, you know. It's the kind of stuff I share with my best friends. And I know it, you know, we kind of get to the stage where we all feel like we're friends, and I certainly hope that I'm friendly voice, you know, in your home. I know a lot of you have said that you've had some tough times recently and it's been nice to just share time with me when I put a video out. That's great. And there is that sort of really odd friendship there, like we're pen pals, aren't we, via video. But remember, I'm like an iceberg. My channel is an iceberg. My channel is that top 10%. There's so much more to me. For example, health. Now, health is a subject I try to avoid. I know. Just before you say it, hang on. I try to avoid, partly because it's my business and no one else's, generally speaking, and secondly because I've seen what happens on other channels. The minute you mention health, everybody who's viewing the video thinks they're a doctor. Everybody's got some answer to your problem. So yes, I've talked about the vitamin D. I think it's important to talk about that because it was a shock to me to find out mine was low, despite all my, you see, look, my summer colour is going, despite the fact that I spend so much time outdoors. So I talked about it because I wanted to highlight that is something we should all check on, despite the fact that we might be outdoors all summer, getting a tan, getting that sunshine, we still might have trouble with vitamin D. So yeah, I've talked about that. I talk about my knees, of course I do, because it affects every single thing I do every day. And sometimes you can see it in the videos. So yeah, I've talked about it. I haven't talked in depth about them. I haven't ever talked about what I've seen on my scans and I've seen inside them. It's just, it doesn't matter. It's not important. Obviously, I talked about the fact that I had chicken pox because, not because I wanted advice from anyone, just because it was going to be a hiatus in filming and it was going to stop me from going to the garden because I had to quarantine. The only reason I brought it up I don't want to bring up any health stuff, A, because it's personal, and B, because, over the years people have offered advice. They've said, oh, cut this out of your diet, cut that out of your diet. And by the time 100 people have said, cut something out of your diet, it's like, well, what am I supposed to eat? You've left me with nothing to eat. If I followed everybody's advice, I wouldn't be eating anything. Oy vey. You can joke about it. So yeah, I would not offer someone unsolicited health advice unless I was their health practitioner. I mean, why would you? Can you imagine just going up to someone in the street and telling them what to do about their health, and you've never, without ever examining them, without ever, just doing a basic set of obs on them, without ever seeing any of their blood results? Why would anyone think that they can give me health advice when they know? Anyway, you get the point. So that came up a couple of weeks ago, and it started triggering all this advice. Do we give? Do we not? And it reminded me of a time in recent years when I did give unsolicited advice, and oh God, it was a really upsetting episode. It's a friend of mine who, we're really good friends, really close friends, and I don't know, for about 2 years or so, every time we got together for an evening out or an evening in or a day out or whatever, every time we got together, she was just going on and on and on about her boyfriend, all the horrible things he does, all the horrible things he says. And as a friend, my default setting is to usually just listen, to let that person rant, to let that person cry, to let that person just get it out of their system, just get it out, So I would sit and listen, and after a while, subject would move on to something else, and we'd be chatting away. But it got to the stage, it was literally like every time I saw her, it was the same conversation over and over again about this boyfriend. It was just awful. It sounded awful. And I don't know, I think I was having a bit of a bad day, maybe, I'm not sure. But again, the subject came up, and I just said to him in the end, I said, you know what? I think you'd be better off without him. Just dump him. If it sounds miserable, I'd never ever heard her say anything good about him, ever. I said, so, just dump him. You'd be better off on your own. Anyway, the evening came to an end, and I just noticed over the next sort of 2 or 3 months or so, if I was on the phone to her or just messaging on Facebook, she was just, I could feel the distance. I could feel she'd had a massive step back from me. I thought, oh God, I shouldn't have said anything. I've obviously upset her. I think what I was saying was the truth, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think, my truth. She's the one who's living the life. So yeah, I arranged to meet up with her. She's really, really reluctant, and I messaged her and I said, look, I want to meet up with you because I owe you an apology. So we did. We met up, and I said, I just let it all out, and I said, I'm really sorry. It's totally, it's not my business. I should have kept my trap shut. I'm sorry. And that was it. We moved on. And the thing is, if you're going to apologise for that, it was tough because in the back of my mind I was thinking, but all you do is complain about him. And I think it to this day. However, that's a thought I have to keep to myself because I really upset her. I really, really hurt her feelings. I feel awful. I still feel awful for that. So an apology with no buts and no qualifiers either. I can't bear that in life. Someone says, I just want to apologise about X, Y, and Z. But it's like, don't qualify, don't, now undermine it. I'm really sorry I upset you, but you were annoying me. That's not an apology, you know. So yeah, that has stayed in my mind a long time. I mean, I'm talking about, this happened 10 years ago, maybe 10, 11, 12 years ago, and it stayed with me. It has stayed with me. It would have been different. It might have been different if she had, you know, spent 2 years moaning about him, and if one day she'd said to me, Vivi, I don't know what to do. Should I leave him? God, that's a hard one as well, isn't it? Because, you know, what am I supposed to say? Yes, leave him. And then she leaves him and is even more miserable. I think that's the thing as well, isn't it, about asking for advice? Be careful what advice you ask for, because you might hear an answer you don't like. Innit? And, you know, if you take someone's, if you ask for some advice from someone, I'm talking about the big stuff now. I'm not talking about growing tomatoes. Of course I'm not. I'm talking about life stuff like partners, homes, moving house, all this kind of stuff. If you ask for someone's advice and they give you advice and you think, I'm going to follow that advice, I'm going to do what they've suggested, you're doing it under your own steam. You have to be completely responsible for it. If things go wrong, you can't then go back to your mate and say, I took your advice and it was crap and now my life is awful. You know, we can only be responsible for ourselves. So yes, the giving and taking of advice. I do ask for advice. I ask for advice on specific things, practical things. You know, I ask for advice on, you know, with the plumbing in the bathroom, I didn't have a clue. I asked R. Graham, because he's an expert. Can you advise me? Can you show me? Brilliant. Let me learn. Fantastic. I will ask advice, you know, I can't think of something now, but where a friend of mine is an expert in a field, for example, I might ask their advice. Like, say a friend of mine was a chef, I'd certainly ask her, you know, what's the best spice to put with such and such a veg, in your opinion? What do you advise I try? Of course, you know, we all share like that, don't we? Has anyone got a favourite recipe? In a way, by sharing a favourite recipe, you're giving advice to someone of saying, try this recipe. No, I'm obviously talking about the big stuff. So yeah, I'm reluctant to give, I'm reluctant to receive, unless I've asked and it's a very specific thing. And like I said, if you do ask for advice from someone and it's, you know, it's big, heavy, personal stuff, you know what? Remember, if you're asking, you're the one who's opening that can of worms. You're the one who's opening that door. Likewise, if you can see a friend in trouble and you desperately think you know the answer and how to make their life perfect, just be really, really, really wary about stepping in. Because the chances are, even with a best friend, we don't ever know the full picture. Wait to be asked. However, I did just give some advice. Oh, it's a long roundabout way, isn't it? So, and this is me saying hello to Anne. A lovely, I can't get comfy today. A lovely woman, Anne, messaged me via the little message bit on my Facebook page, wanting a bit of advice concerning her YouTube channel, a comment she'd received and how to respond to it. So I do get asked, just knocked my water over. I do get asked quite often, often, you know, maybe once or twice a month, someone else with a YouTube channel or someone who's just started out or is thinking about starting out. I do quite often get folk asking me for advice on doing it all. And on those occasions, and on this one in particular, that I'll tell you about, I am happy to give advice because it's sort of a bit generic and it's not really so much, I think, advice as just encouragement. So, you know, who will sort of write to me and say, this is what I do, should I start a channel? I always say, you know what? Yeah, go for it, why not? Just don't expect overnight success. I just give it that code of, don't think that starting YouTube means you can leave your job. It's because you'll suddenly have, YouTube will be your new job and that's how you'll pay your bills. Because it takes ages to build up to get to the stage where you can pay your bills, never mind everything else. But, you know, if you've got a passion, if you've got a hobby that you love and you want to share and reach out to other people who've got that hobby and passion too, absolutely, go for it. And you know what? You may never ever make a penny from it. And you see, that's the thing I do advise, is don't expect to make money. If you're happy to make videos of your passion without expecting anything in return, money, nice comments, viewers, you know, you might only get one viewer. If you don't have any expectations of that, then yeah, why not? Just do it. So lovely Anne got in touch, and she's just, I think she's had her channel about 3 months. I'll put the description, the linky thing below, called, I forgot what's it called, Pretty Pages 71. Now, it's not the kind of channel I would ever have looked at, except because Anne got in touch. So I did have a look. It's very sweet. I'll tell you about it in a sec. And she'd got in touch because she'd had a comment that was a bit of a downer, and was almost the comment was sort of saying that it's a waste of time doing what she's doing because no one's ever going to be interested. I mean, can you imagine that? Anyway, I just think if that's what you think, just keep that thought to yourself. So my response, my advice to her was, you know what? If you love it, the thing you're doing, and you're enjoying making videos of it and sharing it, just do what you want. Do what makes you happy. If you're happy doing it, do it. Don't care. Listen, honestly, just don't care what other people think or say, because the people who do like it, they'll engage with you, they'll follow you, they'll get involved, they'll start sharing, and a little community will build up before you know it. But yeah, do what makes you happy. Keep your expectations low in terms of numbers and money and all that, but just do it. And she is. So I went over and had a look at Pretty Pages 71. Basically, her channel is a colouring channel. I didn't know such things exist. So you know these, oh, hang on, I need to blow my nose. Hang on a tick. That's better. I definitely think I've picked something up. Never mind. Yeah, so I had a look earlier this morning, and like I say, it's not something I would ever have gone searching for. So it's this kind of colouring. You know, you get these adult colouring books. They've been quite popular in the last few years, haven't they? But can't speak. It was so relaxing to watch. So she's colouring and chatting a bit, but the camera is entirely focused on the work that she's doing. So we hear her voice, we don't see her face, and she shows us the different colours she's using at each stage. So intricate. Honestly, the page that she's done today is pumpkins. I'll put the linky thing, as I said. I thought, how perfect. Pumpkin season. She must have used about 12, 15 different colours on one pumpkin. I'd have got an orange pencil and gone, it would have been rubbish. So yeah, it was thoroughly relaxing and mesmerising to watch. I don't think it would be the kind of thing I'd watch regularly, not because I don't like it, but just time. Having half an hour off every day, I just wouldn't be able to fit that in. But I certainly think it's one of those things that, you know, if I was having a really manic day and I was having, say, my lunch break or something, I'd say, right, take a proper lunch break. Don't eat on the run. Eat have half an hour to do your eating and watch this, because it was so gentle and calm. Anyway, I was delighted. You know, Anne mentioned our little conversation via message, and I really hope she sticks with it, because she obviously loves it. She's really good at it. She's like, I don't know, I've never seen a colouring channel. She may be rubbish. I don't think so. It looked gorgeous at the end, and she kept within the lines. I'm kidding. I mean, she did keep within the lines, but that's not what adult colouring is about, is it? Yeah, so like I said, you know, reluctant normally to give advice to anyone, but something like advising someone to do what makes them happy in that scenario where it's not hurting anybody. Obviously, I wouldn't say to someone, do whatever makes you happy if I was talking to an axe murderer, because obviously what makes them happy is chopping people's heads off with axes. So I'm not going to say do what makes you happy if it's going to hurt someone. But if what you're doing is not going to hurt anyone and it's not going to hurt yourself, just do it. Do it, and never mind the neggy comments. And you know what, over time, develop a bit of a radar for them, and sometimes you have to start reading a comment before you realise where it's going. But as soon as you realise where it's going, boom, delete it. Do not read it. Don't read any further. Anyway, there we go. Advice. Crikey, I've been banging on, haven't I? So let's just quickly wrap up with what I was saying right at the beginning, back to basics. Life without a wage, growing my own food. What I'm delighted about, so delighted about this year is, despite the craziness of this year, blight, so much slug damage, pretty rubbishy weather at times, a cold, wet spring, a cool, damp summer, and then blazing hot 2 weeks, and then cold and damp, like crazy weather, crazy slugs, and of course crazy time constraints, as in all those times I've been pulled away from the garden and starting the garden late this year. Anyway, I was on the back foot the minute I started. Despite all of that, I've got food. I've got food again. I think for the fact that I've been doing it for a while now, kind of gave me the courage as the year went on to know that it will be okay. You know, things will be okay. I think if this was the first time I'd ever had a garden and I'd had all those various obstacles thrown at me, the weather, the slugs, the late start, the lack of attendance because of chickenpox, the lack of attendance because of, you know, other stuff, I may have given up. You know, I think the tomatoes, getting tomato blight, I think I would have been like, oh, it's just too much, it's not worth it, it's too hard. But yeah, persevered, did whatever I could, whenever I could, and I've got food again. Yay! I haven't got as many tomatoes as normal, but I've got more beans this year than last year, because the damp summer was perfect for the beans. The squash harvest is coming. Should we do that next? Should we do the squash harvest next? I can't wait. It's always my favourite harvest each year. And of course, these last couple of days in the garden, I haven't spent a lot of time there, but I've been kind of like, I'm so naughty. It's like I can't speak. Presents under the Christmas tree. You want to just poke them, or you want to turn the tag. Is it for me? Is it for me? You know, that's what I'm like with. I'm trying not to have a sneaky preview at the squash. I'm trying not to sort of go and discover them all and feel them and check out their size. But I can't help myself. Oh, another one. Oh, another one. So yeah, you know, food-wise, it has been a great year. Okay, no carrots, no fennel, no lettuces, hardly any tomatoes. But otherwise, you know, great onions, great beans. It looks like it's going to be great squash. brassicas are all looking just lovely, gorgeous. Potatoes, oh, my tummy rumbled, that's telling me to shut up. So, yeah, I am managing perfectly well to grow my own food, living without a wage. No two ways about it. This year has been trickier. I haven't had any sewing time at all. I was hoping to sew up a storm, to have all sorts of things in the shop ready for Christmas, Let's face it, I'm going to be commercial about it. I'd like to sell things that someone else can buy to gift to another person. It's just not happened. So I think I've missed a potential. I've missed the potential for a good little chunk of income that I could set aside for my emergency fund for, computer, sewing machine, all that kind of stuff. So that's a bit disappointing. But again, like I said, the food makes up for it. And the fact is, here I am, where are we? End of September. I've got 3 months left this year. I've managed, another year pretty much without a wage, where I'm still, I'm managing to pay my bills. I'm managing to grow my food. I've had that socking great big bill this year for the lease for this place. I managed to cover it with my emergency fund and with really, really, really scrimping every single month this year. So next year, I should have more time for sewing, brilliant. And any income next year, I won't have to scrimp quite so much because I won't have this lease legal bill. So, I'm hoping, I never thought I'd say this, but maybe I'll do it for my 5th year anniversary. Will April be month 60? That would be crazy. Month 60. What I'm hoping for, what I'm planning for, is to take a whole week off. Amazing. I haven't been able to do it because financially it's just not possible. But I think that's the direction I'm heading. So, right, shut up. Talking about next year already. I'm going to wrap up. Advice. Whoa, that is a can of worms as a subject, isn't it? I absolutely know you are all going to have all sorts of feelings, experiences, good and bad, on this subject. Let's try and share our good ones. This last experience with Anne and her Pretty Pages channel, that's a really lovely experience for me, of feeling like someone has felt they can reach out to me and I've been able to give an answer back to them that is encouraging. Yay, let's do that. That's all we want to do with each other in life, isn't it? Is encourage each other and build each other up. Yay for more of that. Food, good. Pouring with rain again today. I think we'll be dry in about 2 more days, so I'll be doing some more harvesting. Yay! All right, gorgeosities. I think I've been sucking away on water, but it's the kind of day where I think I need a hot drink. I'm going to go make myself a peppermint, I think. So on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you all. See you again soon, I think, in the garden. My tummy's really rumbling. I don't know if it ever picks up. I was really going mad with the rumbles. So I think a cup of peppermint... Can you hear it? A cup of peppermint tea and I might... Ooh, soup. Courgette and potato soup. I've got gallons of the stuff. Oh, it's so yummy though. That's what I'm going to do. A cup of tea, cup of peppermint tea and a bowl of courgette and potato soup. And I will see you all again soon, I hope. Please look after yourselves. Cheerio for now.